Welcome, and thank you for joining us for IOFM's virtual demo day. My name is Mark Brousseau, president of Brousseau & Associates. I'll be your moderator for today's event. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we start our next product demonstration. If you have any technical questions or issues using the WebEx platform, please use the chat box and someone will respond to you right away. If you have any issues with audio, please click on the phone icon above the chat window to receive the teleconference information. For those of you who do call in, to ensure call quality, everyone's lines have been muted today. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the product demonstration. Please type your questions into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me. At the end of the product demonstration, I will have our presenter answer your questions. Our next product demonstration is sponsored by DataServ and is presented by Tony Matera. At this time, I'd like to welcome our presenter and hand the demonstration off to Tony. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Mark. All right. Okay. So first of all, thank you for joining us today. My name is Tony Matera. I was a senior solutions consultant. Now I'm a senior sales engineer, as you can see by this title. But for the previous 4.5, almost 5 years now, DataServ, I worked as a solutions consultant to help get our clients set up on DataServ. And that's the perspective I'm going to be coming from today is from that experience where we're putting in automation that incorporates best practices and mitigates risk along the way and giving you visibility into your invoice processing. It's great that we get together today for demo days, despite not being there in person, right? In these times, AP automation has become more of a necessity than a nice to have, as you all might know. And I'm looking forward to sharing the DataServ solution with you. Before we jump into the demo, though, I'd like to briefly tell you about our company. DataServ is a SaaS global company that serves over 20,000 users across 50 countries. We offer AP and AR solutions through single platform SaaS architecture. Okay, this means our clients see the value very quickly by taking advantage of best practices and the financial controls that are baked into the system already. We also work with our clients to tailor their DataServ solution to meet their specific business needs and to optimize their results over time and continue to improve upon those as well. We're proud of our partnerships we create with our clients. And in fact, the clients that could be with us for over 10 years, 70% of them still are. According to a recent survey by Ardent Partners, the top challenges in AP are too much paper, lack of respect, status, high expectations, or I should say high percentage of exceptions. Expectations might be high too. Invoice approvals and payments take too long. All of you are probably well aware of a lot of these already. AP automation addresses all of these areas, and DataServ focuses on helping our clients drive down exceptions and costs while providing insights into the specific processes to enable continuous improvement. That's what we're trying to do here and are doing. Okay, so I know there's a lot going on right here in this diagram. This is a high-level overview of the AP process. I'm just going to walk through it pretty briefly from the top left down to the bottom right. Unlike a lot of the other solutions that might be out there, DataServ does not require invoices to be in a certain format. It makes for an easy transition into automation. So regardless of the format of these invoices, you can just simply set up an auto forwarding order on emails that are already coming into your AP inbox today and have those sent to a DataServ email box. DataServ ingests those. It goes through a digital mailroom that we have on site in St. Louis. This is part of the DataServ company. We don't have a third party that helps with this. We capture information off of your invoices using OCR technology, and it's more of it's SaaS OCR. It's more of a smart OCR. It doesn't require specific templates or maintenance around templates. And after those invoices have been pushed through this OCR machine, we have multiple levels of human validation. Again, that's at DataServ. And before those invoices get imported into the solution, we ensure that or guarantee that they're either 99% or greater in terms of their accuracy. So the turnaround time is between 23 and 24 hours from the point in which we receive an invoice to the point in which it's available in the solution. And we guarantee 99% or greater accuracy on those invoices with no maintenance and no validation efforts required from you all. Again, that's all on the DataServ side. Right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to optimize your processing, and optimizing automation is only as good as the information that's sent into it or loaded into it, right? So the high quality data ensures high trust in the automation elements downstream, and confidence in the process and expectations, and therefore predictability. So those invoices follow two typical channels. Either non-PO invoices go through an approval and coding process, which requires us to integrate with GL information from your ERP, and the PO process, where we would integrate with open PO and open receipt data to match invoices, your PO invoices, to those PO and receipt data elements using series of matching rules. And we'll get into all that stuff in a little bit. But it's important to understand kind of just the nature of the workflow in general and how we're interacting with your ERP, at what points, at what data, and who is involved, right? We're going to push for best practices throughout the implementation, which is between 90 to 120 days typically, although within 1 week of signing with DataServ, our clients have a out-of-the-box solution that works, where you can take advantage of the DataServ offerings, start capturing invoice data, we can start integrating with your ERP within the first week. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just jump into the solution. Get back to the slideshow in a moment. But upon logging in, this is what AP would see. All right, it's just a quick dashboard that shows the important information that they need to see in regards to where their invoices are. I'm logged in as the AP manager in this instance, and what I want to do is bring forward what I want to see and how I want to see it. It's tailorable by role, by user, and again, unlimited training. We offer unlimited training at DataServ for all of our clients. It's baked into our partnerships with them. I'll get back into the dashboard here in a moment. Each of these tiles represents invoices that pertain to those buckets behind the scenes. You click into it and find the invoices that are related to it. But some things that you should be thinking about today are change management, delegation of authority being a couple of them. Change management is a big part of whatever decision you make in terms of who you're partnering with. We offer a rapid adoption kit, and it helps with that transition. I mean, you can't really see change management. It's more of a feel thing, right? And we have a lot of tools and templates and communication tools available for you to use to communicate to vendors regarding maybe it's changing a PO address, or where paper invoices might need to be delivered, or whether it's just internal communication. We see automation as a good opportunity, or AP automation and the investment in AP automation as a good point for leveraging other changes within the organization that you may have been looking for years now. So you can take advantage of that opportunity as well. And that unlimited training does come in handy when you're dealing with that change management, right? I mean, we understand the retention rates aren't always as high as you want them to be the first time you're introduced to something. I mentioned delegation of authority. Where does this reside today? Where is it being maintained? Some of our clients maintain that in DataServ. Other clients where they don't have a place where they're actively maintaining it today, they just send us a file on a daily basis. So they're still maintaining it in their legacy process or their ERP solution as it is today, but it just flows into DataServ. So you only need to maintain it in one spot. That's the key. We're trying to minimize the noise here. There's enough you have to deal with change management. Okay, and next, I'm just going to talk about the non-PO invoices. All right, I'm going to walk through that non-PO side of things, and then we'll go through the PO side of things, touch base on some tools that are available in the system, and some of the automation benefits in DataServ. So if we know who invoices need to go to for routing purposes or for coding purposes, we can take advantage of whatever was captured off of the invoice to incorporate that automation. So for example, any DataTel invoice, regardless of the ship to location, is going to route to Elaine Bennis here. Maybe they're, regardless of the vendor, and it's all a ship to location, everything that's routed to a certain location is every invoice that pertains to a certain location is going to be auto routed to a certain user. There's a lot of things that you can do here. It's just understanding what makes sense for you. Again, this is part of the flexibility of the solution itself. And just know that this can be a little bit different for company by company. And we also understand that coding could be done by AP or it could be done by approvers. Best practices would tell you to push that out to the edge, right? So what we're going to do when we're talking you through the implementation is we're going to come from that perspective. We're going to push for best practices and understand why not if you aren't taking a best practice advice. Just because we want to learn about it. I mean, sometimes to get to where you want to be, you have to take iterative approaches and bite-sized chunks to get to where your ultimate goals are. And helping you understand that and helping you craft that timeline is part of our initialization process. So again, if we know where invoices need to go to based upon information that was captured, we could take advantage of that. In this demo, what we're doing is the coding is going to be done by the approvers. Again, I said AP can also do that as well. There's other options there as well. If we can auto route invoices, we can also incorporate auto coding if we can stand firmly on that logic or on those rules. Here's just a simple example, a one-liner. If an invoice comes in from DataTel, this is how we're going to code it. It's very basic, but it can be much more complicated than this. It just depends on, like we said, your needs. So once an invoice gets routed to an approver, they'll receive an email notifying them that they have X number of invoices pending action from them, along with a link to log in a DataServ. They click on that link, it brings them into the solution itself. Okay, and then from there, notice that the dashboard from an approver standpoint, not quite as busy as APs, right? AP is used to dealing with chaos. The approvers, we need to minimize the chaos, right? We want to limit it to just what they need to do so they can get in, do what they need to do, and get out. And that in the process, it's also intuitive. So we're not making it difficult for them. Again, this is where the unlimited training comes in handy. We're often training several users at a time, especially those approvers who are maybe logging in to approve an invoice a couple times a month or once a month or something like that. So I'm going to click on My Invoices Pending Approval. What I'm going to see is I'm going to see some of the invoices that were auto-routed to this particular person. You can see that my DataTel invoice right here. I'm going to click on it. I see that invoice image here. There's some nifty tools up at the top that are nice that we can get into maybe some other time. On the right-hand side, we have the header level information on the invoice. We lock down fields so that these approvers can't edit fields that they shouldn't have access to. There's also audit information on an invoice by invoice basis to see who did what and when. Helps track certain cases down, and also a dialogue on an invoice by invoice basis. At the bottom, you can see that these invoices are already automatically coded. All I have to do here is just click approve and I'm done. But I just want to show you a couple other things while we have this invoice open. You can add additional lines to it, so that doesn't really matter. There's no constraints there. Some of our clients with like the bigger utility invoices, they do some Excel magic, and they copy and they paste into DataServ. So it's a pretty easy way to paste 50, 60, 100 lines or whatever it might be. Or maybe it's an invoice is coded the same way fairly often. You can apply a previously coded invoice from a certain vendor to the current invoice you're actively working here. All right. And then from here, all I have to do is click approve and I'm done. If I don't like what I'm looking at, I can reject this invoice. And in the process, I'm required to provide a rejection reason. So for example, in this case, incomplete work was performed on it, rejecting invoice back to vendor. So I'm just putting a little note on it. I'm not required to do so, but I want to reject this invoice. Had I approved this invoice, the data would be scheduled and prepped for transmission into your ERP at whatever scheduled basis is determined. All right. So that invoice is now out of my queue, and now I'm working on my other invoices here. I'm not going to go through those right now. We don't have time today. Happy to cover other use cases on another time or another call. What I am going to jump into is analytics next around non-POs, because it helps to understand where deficiencies are in the process, where gaps are within processes. So I can see that there are invoices that are outstanding. I can see them by dollar value and how late they are. So they've been invoice totaled by due date. So we can see some of these are over 30 days, 60 days past due. Well, I'm really just focused on our non-PO invoices here. So let's just look at those. And you can see when I click on the document type classification to reduce into non-PO, how the analytics dashboard here updates to reflect that. If I'm looking at a particular location, for example, maybe just the East location here. So just non-PO invoices that pertain to the East location, this is what we're looking at here. We can see there's a good amount that is outstanding. We can see where they are in terms of the status, as well as who's working on them. And all this information is exportable to Excel or as PDF, or you can also set up a recurring job so that this is pushed to certain users on a scheduled basis, for example. So this is important to understand where the gaps might be in the process. Escalations are important, right? So if someone's not approving an invoice in a timely manner, we want to incorporate some accountability into the process to have them, to ensure that they are working their invoices. So escalations is a good way of doing that. Some of our clients take advantage of that. Most of them actually do. And that goes for PO invoices as well for them. All right. So let's go back to the dashboard here. It also is helpful to have a month-end accrual report, right? I mean, accruals are a big part of AP, and it helps to, with your greater visibility that you have with DataServ, you have those invoices in the solution. They may not be in your ERP yet because you're still working them, but they pertain to the previous month, and you need to close out that month. Well, that's the intent of this accrual report. So from here, you can see all the invoices that pertain to this certain month. We can talk about which ones need to be in there or what the dates are, incorporate that into the filters, and then export all this data to an Excel file. You can get your values as well as the GL coding for those invoices that have been coded and are in processing if you wanted to get to that particular level of detail there. And I think it makes sense to jump into the PO side of things now. So we covered the non-PO, we covered automatic routing, automatic coding, automatic approvals is coming in 2021, FYI. We didn't cover mobile, but we have mobile capabilities there for approvers to access their invoices and to make those approvals on job sites or whatever in those areas in those industries where they have phones on them, but maybe not a laptop or something like that. So that's very helpful. The next step is to cover the PO side of things, right? So just going to run this diagram pretty quick. This is you all right here. You issue a purchase order to your vendor who then in return delivers goods or performs a service at some point, at which point that is received, right? Meanwhile, they're going to invoice you for those services or goods. And that invoice goes to DataServ, our digital mailroom, where we capture the invoice data, everything we've already covered, multi-step validation, again, by the DataServ team, 24-hour turnaround before it's available in the solution. So we have header and line level detail here on the invoice or from the invoice, and we have receipt and PO data from your ERP, which we're getting daily. And we run them through our auto vouch program. Our auto vouch program is a matching tool or a matching feature where invoices are run through a series of matching rules, the line level, to meet your specific matching needs. So just for example, you might have a match on part number, quantity, and price with a 2% tolerance on price. Anything that exceeds that price tolerance would then kick out as an exception for, say, a price discrepancy. And what we could do there is we could auto route those price discrepancies, for example, to a buyer who's a user in DataServ, so AP doesn't have to do that. And we can talk about how we can automate those steps as well, right? We're trying to promote exception-based processing here. At the end of the day, We want to incorporate a best of both worlds approach where we're taking into account the right financial controls, as well as the automation behind that and mitigating risk along the way. Making sure that your team is comfortable and confident in the solution and that it's performing as expected. All pretty basic things, but the powerful things, right? So any of these invoices that match successfully would flow into your ERP. Any of them that didn't would then be held in an exception queue for someone to handle, whether that's a buyer, whether that's a person in a warehouse, whether that's AP. Those are all things that we talk about during the initialization. Not quite ready for Q&A yet, but we are ready to talk about some more PO invoices. So I'm looking at some invoices right here. There are 8 of them that have gone through the auto vouch process. The ones that match successfully, again, those will go right back to your ERP. One of our clients, a rather big manufacturer, they've got 92% matching rate or straight through processing rate when it comes to these. It can be really powerful. There's also some garbage in, garbage out, right? This gives you an opportunity to help out purchasing if they're struggling, right? So sometimes we see that as an impediment to automation, right? So if it's not the purchase order isn't quite valid, then what do you think the expected results are when the invoice comes in? So there's a lot of ways for us to improve that and increase that automation over time as well. So let's take a look at some of these invoices. Any of these invoices that kicked out due to auto vouch errors or discrepancies would be auto routed. Like I said before in this demo, we are routing the price discrepancies to the buyer on the purchase order, which is Elaine Bennis. And there's a little bit of a Seinfeld theme here. So if I jump back in from Elaine Bennis's perspective, again, get an email, right? These approvers or anybody who needs to work an invoice would get an email notifying them that they need to log into DataServ and address these. All right, so we're looking at one invoice right here for $3,074. I'm looking at it. I already know that it's a price discrepancy. I see the invoice image. I see the line level detail down here at the bottom. But where was the price discrepancy exactly? So we're getting your PO and receipt data on a daily basis, like we mentioned before, for that automated matching step. And for the users themselves, they benefit from that information as well. So I can see the receipt information right here. I can see the invoice had a single line on it for $3,074. I see 2 lines in the receipt or the PO data that pertain to that same dollar amount, but they're just not in the same convention as the invoice. You know that it has to be in the same convention as the invoice in order for your ERP to match it and pay it successfully, right? We're not about sweeping things under the rug and then pushing things downstream for someone else to deal with, right? What we want to do is we want to address them upstream and ensure the highest level of confidence and accuracy, and that the person themselves is then owning that step through completion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to match this invoice line to the receipt line. I'm actually going to add a second invoice line here because I need to make it in the same convention as the PO and receipt. So what I've done is I've just simply broken out this invoice into 2 lines and then matched it appropriately to the receipt data. Upon approval, this is done. It's no longer in my queue. It's ready to be paid. There are other invoices where that might not be the case. So for example, this invoice right here, it's got 3 lines on it. Also a price discrepancy. Let's take a look at it. 2 lines match successfully on the invoice data over here on the right, PO and receipt data over here on the left. You can see that if I look at the receipt data, again, this is from your ERP, we can see that there is a price discrepancy of $65 versus $73 that was on the invoice. And it was outside of whatever tolerance we had configured here, so it kicked out, went to the buyer. Now Elaine's addressing it. Is this a purchasing issue? Is maybe the PO price, the price in the purchase order is out of date, and we need to update it to whatever the new terms are in terms of whatever that contract is. So what I might have to do is update the PO data and then push this invoice back to the auto matching process and auto vouch. If I were to just match this invoice right here to this invoice line to the receipt line, is that going to cause a problem in your ERP? These are the types of things that we could think about. We could allow these types of matches to occur. We could allow it to go to purchasing for additional review and approval. There's a lot that we can do here, but the most important thing is that we don't want to be blindly doing things that the other side isn't prepared to handle, right? We're not putting in a manual step, an exception-based step, to then push something downstream that requires another manual step, right? We're trying to keep these things fluid and have good controls in place as well in the process. So quickly, to show you analytics in regards to that, this is really important stuff here, right? We're trying to understand where our automation impediments are, where are the weaknesses. That's what the analytics tool is designed to help you with. We have an auto-vouch exception. Analytics page here, where we can see all of the different exceptions, our exception rate over time. And that's the difference of analytics versus the other dashboard. Really, the other dashboard is a snapshot. Analytics is more of a, here we are today versus the past, right? Data is important and it's relative to other points in time to see where progress is and where it's not. And we can help you set goals to reach certain automation points, exception rates, trying to drive those down. Some of that is just training your vendors to do things that they should have been doing all along. And maybe you just haven't asked them. Sometimes these are just not as challenging of conversations as some people might think. Maybe there's other ways to approach it. Either way, we're happy to help you out on all those fronts. So I can see here how automation has been over time in terms of the matching. You see the primary exceptions. Looks like the largest exception we have here in the last 180 days is price discrepancy. So I'm going to click on my price discrepancy section of a chart here, and I can see the corresponding information down below. So it looks like Tyco might be the main culprit here in terms of the number of exceptions. However, from a percentage standpoint, 21 might be 4 times, a little bit more than 4 times what Ledvance has here, but it's only 9% of their invoices that are really price discrepancies. So relatively speaking, that's not a very big portion. So that's not as big of a deal as Ledvance is right here, where we can see that proportionally speaking, 56% of those invoices are encountering an error. And maybe it's worth, or definitely would. I'm not ignoring this one right here, but it's interesting. It's important to understand the data and how to navigate through it to drive exception rates down, drive straight through processing rates up, drive accountability up, right? You want to drive accountability up on your vendor side. You should be providing invoices in a certain format. You should be providing invoices maybe in a certain unit of measurement that reflects what you have on your PO data. If it isn't, we have some translation tools on our site that can also optimize that data, right? So transitioning or translating a unit of measurement into the appropriate unit of measurement per your PO, and then matching against those values. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel back the onion within your process, within your invoices, looking at it from the 80-20 rule of where a majority of these exceptions are, how we can address them, best practices, emphasizing all of those things in order to drive your automation up, confidence up, visibility up, and overall cost for AP down, right? That's what the whole name of the game is here, is improving that visibility into where invoices are, improving predictability along the way. So, do we have any time left? Did I finish early? That's a first.
Well, Tony, we can make up that with questions. And that brings us to the Q&A portion of this product demonstration. If you haven't already asked your question for Tony, or if you've thought of additional questions for Tony, go ahead and type your questions into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me now. Our first question is from Sharon. She wants to know, does DataServ have a purchasing module?
Yes, thank you for asking that. We do have a purchasing module. We do have a vendor portal module as well set up there as well, yes.
Well, I reckon Sharon wouldn't let you off that easy, so I won't either. Tell us more about that purchasing module.
Yeah, sure. So it's important to have a good process in place in regards to the requisitions and the purchasing process, right? How we're going to our purchasing module is specifically directed mostly for indirect purchase orders. So coding those in advance, then from there we can either, we run those saying invoices, those requisitions through an approval process. They then become POs. Then they can either be delivered to your vendor from DataServ, or we can share that data back to your ERP for your ERP to then do that communication with your vendor on a template that you might have already. There's a couple different approaches there. And either way, those invoices would eventually come back in, and then we would match them against that PO data that was established either in DataServ or then shared with your ERP.
Are you checking for budget availability?
Yes, that's all built into it. It's part of the requisition itself.
Teresa wants to know more about your supplier portal. Does it have the ability to do automatic TIN matching or supplier onboarding or collect bank account information, or does it just allow supply? I haven't finished the question, Tony.
Anxious here, ready to dive in.
She took the time to type the thing. Or does it have the ability to allow suppliers to check on the status of invoices and payments?
All the above. You have more there.
No, that's it. She stopped there. Sharon wants to know, can I carry on a conversation with the supplier from within the application?
We have the tools to do so. The thing is that our clients today, right now, the ones that do have it, they prefer to keep those communications for internal purposes only. We can absolutely turn that on to allow their vendors to see those comments as well. It's just important that they're aware of that fact.
Paula wants to know, what happens if an approver or buyer is on vacation? Who has access to change where their invoices are routed?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. You can set up an out of office on a user by user basis. So if invoices are routed to people, they skip that person's step in the process, and then they go to the next person in the approval hierarchy. Another thing you could do is if you do notice that somebody's out and they didn't set their out of office, for example, you can update a lot of invoices at once. I can route all of these instead of to a lane. I want to route them all to, let's say, Cosmo Kramer. So that's another way of handling it as well, or it's more of an addition to.
Tony, I reckon there's built-in escalation procedures?
Yes, there are, and we would want to work with you on whatever would be best there. I mean, most of our clients have escalation rules between 5 and 7 days, but it might be dependent on a location, it might be dependent on a company, those might be different. So we want to talk about all those, but yes, we absolutely encourage escalation for accountability's sake.
Penny wants to know if she can set different authorization levels for a single person. In that case, one person might have $50,000 limit for inventory, but a $10,000 limit for CapEx.
Sure. So what we can do, and first of all, I would stress best practices in this regard. And being a P2P licensed consultant, having gone through IOFM's program there, it specifies in there, Mark, if it doesn't, I know it does. I looked this up recently, is that it says you should be simplifying this is really what you should be doing. You should be simplifying these because it can be a lot to maintain over time across your whole organization. We can have different approval limits by company is what we would recommend there. We have had clients ask for that before, and we have done some custom builds, but this is an example of where we push back and push for best practices and understand what the nature of that request is, why, and maybe we end up going down that path, and maybe we end up steering the client towards a best practice approach.
Michelle wants to know, what is the typical invoice volume of your customers?
It's pretty wide ranging. We've got clients that are between, 36 to 40 to 50,000 invoices a year, all the way up to like 1.2, 1.5 million a year. We're running approximately like almost 4 million through our digital mailroom a month.
Another attendee wants to know whether the system supports foreign currency payments.
It does support foreign currency invoices. The payments are done out of the ERP, but we definitely interface and capture currency off of invoices. We also can get currency from PO and vendor master data that can also help with processing. We can do some validation checks on that also, right? Does the currency on the invoice match what it is that you're expecting either in the PO or in the vendor master?
Lisa's wondering whether invoices can be uploaded as a XML file.
Yes.
Hold on, I got to scroll up here. Brian wants to know, oh, you think you just addressed this. What payments capabilities does the solution offer? And I think you said you do that through a third party.
No, actually, that was somebody else that does the payments through the third party. We have considered, partnering with companies for payments. It hasn't made it to the top of the priority list yet. We're not ruling that out for the future. But right now, the payments are still processed out of the ERP, and the payment information is then shared back with DataServ, I should mention. So after invoices are paid, invoices in the solution are updated to a paid status with the check number, check amount, check dates, all that stuff. The vendor can then, of course, see all that information as well in the vendor portal.
Gloria wants to know how one-time vendors are handled.
Well, I mean, whether you're a one-time vendor or you're a 10-time vendor or you're a million-time vendor, they need to exist somewhere where you're going to pay them, right? And in order to pay them, you have to go through the proper validation checks and procedures. So it would be the same as any other vendor, regardless if it's once or if it's more than that.
Tomas wants to know about your pricing model and whether there's implementation fees involved.
That's a loaded question. Is that Thomas?
Tomas.
Tomas. Yes, there is. It is there's an init fee, and then there's we have a monthly service fee for it. Yes, but we're happy to talk about that. Just because something exists in one place versus somewhere else does not mean the ROI over time is better one way or the other, right? And we're trying to drive the ROI up and costs down.
Brian wants to know whether you support dynamic or early payment discounting.
The early payment discounting would have to come through a supplier network of some sort in order to get that. We do offer visibility into discounting, but the dynamic discounting is not currently something that's offered in DataServ.
Shelby wants to know more about your average implementation time frame. You said it's deployed very quickly. What IT resources are involved? How do you deploy so fast?
Yeah, sure. So we have what we call our quick start solution that we provide to clients usually within a week of signing with DataServ. Okay, and what that entails is it's a out-of-the-box solution where you can start sending invoices into our digital mailroom. We can get your vendor master data and capture your invoices using that information and running it through a workflow process in the solution itself. And that's up and running immediately. We can get that set up immediately because it's the same for everybody for the quick start. But then while that's happening, in combination with the training and the adoption and all of that for the quick start, we also have a tailored solution that we're working on. And that usually takes between 90 and 120 days. And that's where we're incorporating more of the tailoring components for a specific ERP or specific needs. Maybe I need to have a tax code. Maybe it's a required field. Maybe I have to do something in particular for certain cases. And that's what we do for that 90 to 120 days. Who's involved there? There's a solution delivery team, which I used to be a part of, where there's a solution consultant and an initialization success manager, almost like a project manager with them. He might wear another hat or two. That's on the DataServ side. And of course, we have a technical team as well, but they're not really involved too much in the client-facing conversations. And then our clients on their side, typically, when those conversations we have, the AP manager, maybe the controller, of course, the AP team for training, and then there will be IT as well at certain points. We do have an integration library for the ERPs that our clients have used. They've shared a lot of that information. So we've got that internal network of clients that where we can reach out to if there are integration hurdles in any way or another. It's common for us to get one client in touch with another to help them through, to jump through maybe an integration hoop that we know one client already did in the past.
Portia wants to know, does the software have the ability to have vendors provide a completed W-9 via your vendor portal?
Yes.
A related question, Susan wants to know, can you offer discounts to suppliers through your portal?
I think we have to talk about more of the specifics around that. Is she talking about dynamic discounting?
I assume
Are we talking
so.
about into the right? I mean, there's payment terms that are built into the data integration, so we can capture discount dates and due dates for invoices. We can leverage PO data for that if necessary, but there's not the dynamic discounting that she's might be talking to right there.
Kieran asks, how does the system handle it when there are no backup approvers set up?
There are no backup. That doesn't allow for that.
Tony would never allow such a thing to happen, Kieran.
You got to have an approval loop, okay? There's somebody that sits ahead on the top of that approval hierarchy, right? So you're not going to get to the end. You get to the end, you're going to go to the person that's at basically has an unlimited approval limit. And what happens? How does it escalate beyond that person? Well, if you're AP and the invoices got up to the highest part to your CEO and it's still not being addressed, then something else is going on. But you have that visibility. You know, you always have visibility into how long invoices have been sitting there, how to address those. We can talk and head those things off before they're even a problem, right? You want to be proactive here, and that's what the solution is designed to do. And that's what the unlimited training also provides, is the tools in your tool belt to to handle all of those situations. It's a good question, though.
Yeah. And that is all of the questions that we have received. If you think of any other questions for Tony, we invite you to reach out to him directly using the contact information now displayed on your screen. And with that, it's time to close out this product demonstration. I have just a few housekeeping notes to go over before we officially end and close out for the day. If you could please fill out the short evaluation form that will appear once you close out of today's event, that will help us better serve your needs in future virtual demo days. Thank you again to Tony for a great product demonstration today. And thank you for all of you for taking time out of your busy days to join us. This demonstration was brought to you by IOFM and was sponsored by DataServ.